everybody in the family was talking about money, money when Bob dies. It was all about Bob's money when he was dying. Bob dies, money, 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 money. And then indecisions were made and just unconfident minded thinking from the lawyers, from Chris Blackwell, and from some of the family members. How are we going to get rid of the band and take all the money?
Have you made a lot of money out of your music?
Money. I mean, how much is a lot of money to you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Have you made, say, millions of dollars?
No.
Are you a rich man?
When you mean rich, what you mean?
Do you have a lot of possessions? A lot of money in the bank?
Position make you rich? I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life, forever. Yeah, Rastaman vibration, yeah. Live if you wanna live, I and I vibration, yeah. Positive.
So, reggae icon Robert Nesta Bob Marley did not die a poor man, and his family escaped destitution. Thanks to the wealth he left behind from his years of musical dexterity, which shot him to global acclaim as one of the best musicians of all time. However, his death on May 11, 1991 from cancer was followed by decades of lawsuits over his estate, which was reported to be worth about $30 million when he died.
The singer's wife and family are now embroiled in a fierce dispute over Marley's estate, which may be worth as much as $35 million.
Bob Marley did not leave behind a will, as per his Rastafari beliefs that characterize lawyers and legal documents as evils and tools of Babylon.
I can't deal with the Western ways of life. If I must live by law, it must be the laws of His Majesty. If it's not the laws of His Majesty, well, I can make my own law. You know what I mean? I don't see. I can't see a guy and make law for me. You know, it's either His Majesty law or I can make my own. Because what I know is that all of them other laws that He's making, His men made them. And I am a man too.
The Rastafarian faith prevented Marley from recognizing his own mortality, so of course that means he could not do a will. What it did mean is that when he passed away, the laws in Jamaica determined who received his money and how.
Well, it's been 10 years, since Bob passing, and we have administrators who came in because Bob didn't have a will.
His family could only depend on the Jamaican intestate law to decide on the distribution of his wealth.
Now, 10 years after his death, she is locked in a legal battle for his estate. She is fighting bankers who are the court-appointed administrators and a multinational corporation.
Bob Marley became more than a star. He really built the beginning of a dynasty, and his heirs are not getting the opportunity really to build on that.
Every law is illegal.
Every law is illegal.
Every government upon the face of this earth today is illegal.
His wife, Rita Marley, would have received 10% of his assets and would be entitled to another 45% throughout her life, while his at least 12 children by 8 different women would share the balance.
Means that his wife Rita only received 10% of his assets.
Money makes people crazy.
This did not seem fair to some and did not go down well as well.
I understand you're married. Are you married?
No.
Do you have any children?
Yeah. I have a couple children in Jamaica.
Bob Marley's business attorney, David Steinberg, and an accountant, Marvin Zold, convinced Rita to forge his name to a series of documents and predate them to before he died.
And we have administrators who came in because Bob didn't have a will, and their attitude towards it is really, we're going to stay in this thing until every penny is finished.
The plan was to transfer control of the large majority of Bob Marley's corporate holdings, along with much of his royalty rights and money to her. The scheme was uncovered by one of Bob Marley's former managers, and it began a long series of legal battles which ended after the two accomplices were found guilty to fraud and other illegalities to the tune of $6 million. Rita Marley also confessed and stated that she acted upon the advice of the attorney. She lost her administrative control of Bob Marley's estate, which she had since his death until 1986.
And I think Rita got a little nuts. There was a contention that she may have forged signatures predating Marley's death to divert assets to herself that would have belonged to the estate. And she ultimately fessed up, but she got away with it, and she's lucky.
And I'll say that the administrators did get professional advice that the value of those assets, those music assets, was likely to decline Bob having died. So we're talking about mid-1980s, 1986, 1987, those years. And the thinking then was that the value of the estate would decline, and that the administrators should try and get the best price they could at the time. Rita Marley, Bob's widow, and all children, all 11 children, joined in opposing that sale.
It is an estate that continues to grow as Marley's music becomes even more popular after his death.
Glorious things have been spoken of the O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them that...
At the same time, other legal claims popped up from several children of Bob Marley and their mothers. One from the Wailers, Marley's 8 bandmates at the time of his death, and another from Cayman Music, which claims to own some of Bob Marley's recordings. Bob Marley's mother also moved to his $300,000 South Dade house in Miami in 1977. And Chris Blackwell, president of Island Records, Bob Marley's record label, wanted to include the property in an $8.2 million sale of Marley's estate.
I didn't want to sue Rita Marley and Universal. I didn't want to have anything to do with the lawsuit. It's just that I thought that somebody needed to go and explain that Carlton Barrett and Aston Barrett worked for Bob Marley in a situation where they were directors and they were royalty recipients. Bob gave the Wailers royalties, whether the family or Universal or the highest court of England doesn't believe this. We were subpoenaed. I subpoenaed Don Taylor to court so that he would come and represent us in Jamaica. But Junior Marvin and Family Man decided to give Chris Blackwell and Rita Marley a second chance after they met us on the court steps. They came to the court to stop us from suing them when it's a court date. This is never done anywhere in the world.
Founder Chris Blackwell signed Marley to a recording contract back in 1973 and became a close friend. Now he's helping the Marley family hold on to the estate.
Because Chris Blackwell met Peter, Bob, and Bunny from the beginning in the early 70s, And he already had made a decision that he was going to separate these two guys and take this one guy and make him a superstar. Because that's how Chris Blackwell thinks, way far ahead.
He and Peter and Bunny came into the office in London, and the three of them came in, and they were nobodies, but they were like huge stars. Their attitude and the vibe they gave off. And we met, and I really took to them. You know, I took to them just this attitude that they had, and it could be conceived, I guess, to be very aggressive or very negative, but I didn't really see it as that. I saw them, you know, they were like real sort of rebels. You know, they were prepared to. They were ready to work, but they wanted to do everything pretty much on their own terms, you know. And so I made a deal with them, which in a sense was risky, which was to contract with them to give them some money to go off and make a record. And everybody said, oh, well, you never hear a record, and you never see the money again, and you know, that'll be that, because they had a bad reputation. If you've ever seen The Harder They Come, they were sort of like the Jimmy Cliff character in The Harder They Come, you know, trouble. The amount was £4,000 I gave them to make this record, which is a minute amount now, and it wasn't that much then. And a few months later, I went down to Jamaica, and I rang them up, and, you know, wondering if I was going to hear anything, if there was going to be anything for me to hear, and they came around, picked me up at the hotel, and played me Catch a Fire. And I know enough about recording to know that £4,000 was in that record. You know, they put every penny in it.
So when Chris Blackwell realized that, wow, this guy's musical success will be a legacy for the rest of his life and my life, but not the band's life.
His foundation is in the whole of mountains. Jehovah's the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things have been spoken of the O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them.
The administrator negotiated a sale of the music assets, and in fact, all the assets of the estate, including Bob's name and likeness, the Tough Gong studio, some real estate, the property that is now the Bob Marley Museum, all of those assets. And they sold them, negotiated a sale as a package to Island Records for 8.2 million US plus some Jamaican dollar.
Chris Blackwell would get royalty rights from Marley's recordings, copyrights for his songs after 1976, and real
that it's been of great importance to the family that they have the power to control that and to decide what to approve and what not to approve.
The legal battle ended after a decade with both parties benefiting.
By that time, though, the family and Island Records, Mr. Blackwell, had come together to try to find a creative way for the family to acquire the assets. And as you may appreciate, the family members didn't have the cash to match an offer like that. But those who were adults were quite prepared to waive any claim to the cash in order to have an interest in their in Bob's music assets. And we devised a way to protect the infants by putting up enough cash, really through Island Records, so that each of the infants could get a guarantee of the $1 million that they would have gotten from the other sale upon their becoming of age.
Of Jacob, glorious things have been spoken of the O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them that
put together that package. The administrator chose to accept and support the offer that it had negotiated with that foreign company. And the matter again, therefore, had to go back to court. Contested hearing this time before Mr. Justice Walker, as he then was. He later became a judge of the Court of Appeal. And I'm happy to say that Justice Walker approved the family's position, approved a sale to that, what I call a joint venture between the family and Mr. Blackwell's Island Records. And the rest is history. The assets got transferred to a group of companies that the family arranged. And I can tell you that their decision and Justice Walker's decision proved ultimately to be the right one, because the earnings have far exceeded what they would have received under those sales. It was probably over a 7-year period all of this happened. Those sales, more than that, those sales got completed, I think, in 94, 95. And that's why the Marley family owns those assets today.
So we fought them and we lost. And he had internal ties. Chris Blackwell's like a mafia when it comes to trying to get your rights and your royalties from him. He fucked every band. Jimmy Cliff, Third World, Inner Circle. He had his own promoters in Ireland, book tours. He would buy your publishing if he could. He would buy your merchandise and put it all on his record label. So he's got your publishing, he's got your merchandise, and he's got your tour. These are 3 things that belong to you as an artist in America, in Germany, and all the other common world. But only because Chris Blackwell is a slave driver. He is a person that took all of our money, and we took him to court to get our money and lost everything we worked our whole lives for because of Chris Blackwell. It was all his intentions to take the slaves' food, money, and their 40 acres and their mule. That's what his dream was, and he did it. He's still alive, and I hope he's happy about the Wailers and all the Wailers and everybody around Bob Marley who don't have anything, and they have everything.
This ruling prompted another lawsuit in 2011 when Rita Marley and 9 of Bob's children sued his half-brother, Richard Booker, and 2 of his corporations. Richard Booker was using Marley's name and image to market the annual 9 Mile Music Festival in Miami. And he owned a company which gives tours of the village where Marley was born and is now buried.
In fact, some have questioned whether the heirs have actually taken it too far and tried to shut down everything having to do with Marley's image that they don't control.
He was also trademarking the term Mama Marley for his line of fish products. Booker claimed that Bob Marley had given him permission to use the family name. After a year in court, the family reached a settlement agreement.
Of Jacob, glorious things have been spoken of the O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them that know.
As of 2018, Bob Marley is the 5th top-earning dead celebrity, according to Forbes. His estate, now named House of Marley, is managed by 4 of his children: Rowan Marley, the brand officer of the estate, Cedella Marley, Stephen Marley, and Ziggy Marley, while the rest sit on a board and share the proceeds evenly. The proceeds are derived from the sale of products in more than 48 countries, according to Forbes. These includes headphones, Marley natural cannabis, smoking accessories, get-together portable speakers, which logged $6 million in sales in 2016, and Smile Jamaica earphones, $8.1 million. There are also Uplift earphones, Marley Coffee managed by Rowan Marley, and Marley Natural managed by Sadella Marley, which sells herb-related products such as smoked glass water pipe. The Marley family have hired a team to help run House Marley and to deal with the unauthorized use of Bob's name and likeness. Forbes estimates that unauthorized sales of Marley music and merchandise generate more than $500 million a year, though the estate disputes this.
Bob Marley, somebody that I would, if he was a military leader, I would go fight for him. He was like Che Guevara and Castro, to me.
Yeah, Rastaman vibration, yeah. Live if you wanna live, I and I, vibration, yeah.
He sacrificed himself for politics, because these are the people that killed him. Bob Marley was poisoned and murdered, because he was the healthiest man I ever met. Bob was perfect. He had no health problems. There was nothing wrong with him. There was no mental problems, no physical problems. And then when I saw him passing, when he was dying, mentally he wasn't there, physically. And there's only one thing that can do this to a man, is poison. And he was going to become the most powerful Eddie Seaga is not a communist. He's a capitalist. And he was with George Bush Sr. Eddie Seaga was the head of the CIA operative for Jamaica. I saw this for myself. I was a living example of everything that I'm saying to you now. I consider the truth from God's heaven, because I got an opportunity to see and witness all these things. And there's no point for me to be in this interview and lie to whoever's listening to me.
This foundation is in the whole of mountains. Jehovah's the gates of Zion more than all the dwellings of Jacob. Glorious things have been spoken of thee, O city of God. I'll make mention to Rahab and Babylon to them that